I told myself, okay, I'm going to be the customer service guy. I'm going to be the one that serves and love people. But again, you can't just say it. So I'd write down the principles, like, how am I really going to be? Can I honor these? When I hire people to come work underneath me on my team, they are going to have to say yes and truly live, not just say, these principles every single day.
Real business owner.
Whatever your situation is currently is not your forever situation.
That's really what real business owners is, man. Like, we don't care where you come from, where are you going?
Our goal and our job is to reduce the mistakes that you have to make or the money that you have to lose.
You want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be successful, don't give up.
You learn, adjust, and continue to move forward. Welcome back to the Real Business Owners Podcast. This is Trevor Cowley, as always. OG, triple OG, Kilo G.
What's up, everybody? I got something to throw out there.
There you go. Kel's not quite ready, but ready or not, here we come. Guys, today we have an amazing guest, Ryan Flint. He's done a lot of cool stuff that we're going to basically uncover today. Some of the stuff we're aware of because we've been able to chop it up for the last 15 or 20 minutes. But this is an individual that runs in kind of some of the same circles that we run in. We've seen his face a few times. I think everybody kind of has people that they have seen or they know about that run in some of the same circles that they haven't quite linked up with yet or they haven't met yet. But you just know based upon who they're running with, they're just good people. And that's Ryan because he's running into some of the same circles. We bumped into each other, what was it, a couple weeks ago up in Salt Lake. Yeah. I guess we met one time prior at the gym for about 3 minutes many years ago. But Ryan's done a lot of amazing stuff. He's done a lot of cool stuff, and as he's unpacked some of that over the last 15, 20, 30 minutes that he's hung out with us, it's been very, very impressive. And so, if you will, tell him a little bit about yourself in terms of some of the success that you've seen, where you're currently at, and then we'll start diving in a little bit about kind of the process that it took to get you there.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's good to be here in sunny St. George.
Yeah. So you
can't complain about the good weather here. But yeah, I'm a commercial real estate broker, focused on mostly corporate stuff. I do a lot of office, land, industrial, some retail, but mostly it's with consistent
big companies, big corporations.
Consistent companies and developers and
did you know about that stuff going into real estate, like that? Because you just educated me, anyways. Kel may have already known about kind of that sector of real estate, where so he says he's on the corporate side. So in other words, like big corporate companies that are expanding, they have one agent and they interview a bunch of agents. But there's like is it SOIR or SI?
Yeah, SIOR.
SIOR is like a specific rating that agents get if they've earned a certain amount of money for a certain amount of years, and they can't fluff it because they get your broker statements. Your brokers have to send it in, and they have to go through this whole process to be able to earn that. And then there's large companies that won't even look at you as an agent unless you have that because they want the best of the best. And so he can work with large corporations. They say, yo, like he interviewed with one company to get all of their commercial property on the west of Mississippi, right? Where like they're interviewing people like, yo, you got west of Mississippi, you got, and they reach out to guys like that to where they're doing big commercial deals with one agent in the United States or maybe two or three that they have in their back pocket, depending on the region.
That's cool.
Which is something that, I thought it was like, your residential, and then you had kind of the commercial, the building stuff. I didn't know that there was another level of like corporate commercial.
Yeah,
is that the best way to call it? Corporate commercial?
Yeah, that's great. The way that you can refer it in the residential world is a lot like the guys that do only luxury or like mountain properties.
Yeah,
the Park Cities, the $25 million estates. And,
so people find their little niches.
Niche. Yeah.
Right.
And so did you know you were going to go into that niche going into real estate? Like day one when you said, I'm going to get a real estate license, was it, I'm going to do residential? You knew for a fact it was commercial, or did you already have your eyes set on the corporate stuff?
No, I did not do the residential thing.
You went straight to commercial.
I went straight to commercial. And I grew up around my dad was a big entrepreneur.
Okay.
And he was one of the big vendors for FedEx.
Okay.
And so I saw what he was doing around the country and in Canada, and grew up walking warehouses and understanding all the little components of industrial real estate. Truck parking. And
when you say you grew up understanding, did you grow up here in Utah?
Yeah, I grew up here in Utah.
Up in Salt Lake area?
Yeah, in Salt Lake and Davis County is where I grew up. His warehouse was in Salt Lake and Ogden, and I just loved the big stuff. I didn't really know I was going to be in real estate, but when I decided to go into real estate, I did not want to go into residential because it's so emotional, and I'm not an emotional guy.
You want it to be business.
Yeah, I wanted to deal with sophisticated business owners that were ready to execute.
It's logic. Yeah. Emotion's gone. Yeah. This makes sense. Let's do it. It doesn't make sense. We're not doing that.
Yeah, and also, the asset classes that I focus on, they're really recession proof. They're really, COVID was one of our very best years because we just turned the hat sideways.
Yeah.
And
what makes it that way when you say it's
I do
recession-proof?
I do a lot of warehousing, and so manufacturing, distribution. Think about what in COVID manufacturing took off.
Yeah.
There were hat companies making masks, and there were there were
to
lotion companies making hand sanitizer, and they needed to grow. I represent one of the larger food storage companies in the world, and I mean we were getting 3, 4, 5.
Wow.
6-digit square foot buildings like in 2 weeks notice.
Wow.
And so.
So everybody during COVID, they were in a panic and they were just buying up food storage when the toilet paper started missing on the shelves. They're like, oh shit.
Exactly.
Food's next. Their business just exploded.
Exactly. And I historically haven't done a lot of retail, like the actual retail box stores, but I did help a lot of like drive-throughs, and that's not my expertise. I'd just partner up with people. I would just be the communication piece of the relationship. And office that people were working from home. It was getting creative and creating just different opportunities. And again, there's so many people. It's like, oh well, I'm just going to take a year off. I'm going to go get another job. I don't know what to do.
Right.
Where I was like, okay, this is our opportunity to dig our heels
double down.
Yeah, dig our heels in the dirt, and let's start reaching out to every single client, hundreds and hundreds of them, just to make sure that they're good. How we can get creative if they need to downsize or upsize or get another space or, get creative or add a drive-through. And then, again, it was when I got into business, I always wanted to be the best customer service guy because there just isn't any of that out there.
Yeah.
Do you think that's what's like young agents, whether you're talking about residential, commercial, or whatever it is? Do you think that's a kind of a big issue in the real estate game?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's just the service aspect of it,
yeah.
Or
and I'll compliment the home realtors. They do a lot better job than the commercial guys. The commercial guys are
is it because the
pretty
ego?
Staunch? Yeah.
Is it just just the money's inflated their ego? They think their shit don't stink.
That's right.
So therefore, if it's not already a done deal, they don't even really want to show up. They just believe that it should be given to them almost with that arrogance about them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. When I was at my first shop and I was just getting to learn the business, I sat back and I learned more about how not to do the business.
Yeah.
And I'm a pretty analytical, reflective guy. And yes, I would just dive into the phone book like I was told, and it frustrated me because there was no personal touch. There was no secret sauce at all. It was and then I would get a call from maybe somebody that needed 3,000 square feet of warehouse, and let's just say that the commission was $2,500. Well, the guy that I work for was like, why would you even waste your time? And it really resonated on me that I kept telling myself, I'm going to be the exact opposite of this individual. Not that I don't love and respect him as a person, but I'm a relationship guy. I'm not a transaction guy. Like the transactions come when you just love people.
Yeah.
And so from literally day one, month one, I was like, okay, my secret sauce or my niche is not going to be corporate. It's not going to be just office or industrial. I'm going to be the one that has the best customer service. I'm going to create my boundaries or my non-negotiables, which are now my principles that hang on my wall, my core values, that I'm going to love people, I'm going to serve people first, and I'm going to be relational, not transactional. And you have to be authentic. You can't just say that.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the hard part. It becomes hard.
It's easy to say it. It's easy to say it, and it's easy to say that after you've made a bunch of money too. Mm-hmm. Right? Like us coming up in business, you know, it was about money. It's just money, money, money. And then you start making money and you're like, that's not what it's about. It's really about service, right? It's about caring. It's about, you know, doing whatever you can to go above and beyond and go the extra mile, because in reality, when you do that, you receive also a deposit. You feel good about yourself and you have the ability to make money rather than having it just be low frequency, just transactional, whatever, right?
Well, it's all about the experience. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like at the end of the day, nobody likes to feel like you're just another number. And unfortunately nowadays, everything's just like automate. If you can, like, it's not that hard nowadays to actually be different and counterculture and be like, well, I just actually want to treat people really well. Yeah. Then you actually have an edge on all your competition.
You're like, so,
by just caring.
But
and
what else
human.
do I've got to do? Nothing. Yeah. Literally just care more than the other individual. And over an extended period of time, because you care, that will compound just like an interest rate, right?
Yep.
If it's all transactional, you don't really have the same ability to have that compound effect. Yeah, you can line your pockets real quick, but if you're trying to do what Ryan's done in terms of that level of success in this game, you're going to have to do more than just work hard, right? You've got to have more than just that one ingredient. That one ingredient will get you to a certain point, but then you got to kind of wake up to some of the other ingredients. You can only grind for so long before you have to care and serve and love your customers so that it has the ability in 10 years to be sitting where you're sitting in a position that's probably, you know, really, really good financially, right? But you didn't get there sheerly just through hard work. It was the other ingredients that you put as a priority, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know what? I told myself, okay, I'm going to be the customer service guy. I'm going to be the one that serves and love people. But again, you can't just say it. So I'd write down the principles, like, how am I really going to be? Can I honor these? When I hire people to come work underneath me on my team, they are going to have to say yes and truly live, not just say, these principles every single day. And guys, there's been times where I've had guys come in and make, you know, juniors underneath me make $250,000 in their first 6 months, and they can't live the principles, and they walk out the door because it's not about the money. Let me ask you this:
so do you feel as though that you escaped the ego moments? Because I mean, we're all human.
No.
We're all human, right? Like,
no, I had those moments.
Okay,
you know,
you came in like, I want to serve, you know, and you came in maybe with the right mindset. But then life happens, right? And sometimes we get caught up in our own ego with the money. Things are going good. You know, there were moments of the ego kind of getting the best of you. And then as you've matured, you kind of slowly try to put that to bed more and more and more.
Honestly, it was a little bit of the opposite. I came into the business, and I mean, everyone loves real estate, right? It's such a good investment.
Yeah.
Some of my friends that I knew and were associated with, I knew they did really well in the commercial realm, you know, because commercial buildings and leases are the value. There's you do
the percentage
10
on
or
the dollar.
20,
it's 10 times the
residential.
Yeah.
Yep. And so, you know, I admit that initially it was, okay, this is a business that I know how to get along with people. I know how to sell. You know, I look the part, I act the part, I can do this. Mm-hmm. And it was about the money. And about 3-4 weeks into it, 5 weeks, I just sat back and my heart was just hurting because I'm thinking, God, I hope that it's just not the experience that I'm having watching my, you know, quote unquote mentor at the time and those around me, like, these guys they're dicks.
Yeah.
They're
rich,
care
but they seem miserable.
Yeah, but when you look at it, like, they were rich in that moment to me because I wasn't. You know, I was excited to make 50 grand my first year, honestly. I just wanted to get into the business and learn.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if a commission came in that was $1,000, I was pumped.
Yeah. And this was what age?
This was back in like 2012. So I was 20, 24, 23, somewhere in there. I was young.
What were you doing before that? Before you decided to get into real estate?
Yeah, so
from
I
like
was
18 to 20.
Yeah, I was in the fitness world, and I owned a gym, and I was training CEOs and doing nutrition for some professional.
So you've always been around high level people. Your dad was a high level entrepreneur. There was high level people around him. You get out of high school, you're training CEOs.
Yeah.
Then you go into the commercial game, which is all high level people.
Yeah.
What do you think separates? I mean, you've been, and even where we met you in Salt Lake was around a bunch of people that are high level, right? That are just greats in whatever area that they're great in. Like you were great, you're great in real estate, right? Wags is great in the food and beverage industry, and in real, there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of cool ass shit. In your eyes, what do you think makes the difference? What are some of the key ingredients that makes somebody great versus somebody average in the exact same industry? Because it seems as though that your life has been surrounded by, high achievers. And so I want to know if you've kind of pinpointed a few different characteristic traits, habits, anything like that to greatness.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the first month or two in my career where I just wanted to make money for my family. That's it. I got the text messages. Are we going to make the mortgage at the end of the month? And it was $1,400. Like I'm going to be real with you, and it would stress me out. But I had the personality, the grind, the work ethic. The personality. I always had really good relationships, especially when I was training. Little did I know, I knew a lot of high-end business guys, executives, professional athletes. I was running around in a circle that I wasn't even aware of. And
it was so normal to you that it was just
yes.
considered normal. It wasn't like you weren't aware of like, holy shit, I'm around greatness constantly.
That's right. It was totally normal, and it was because of those people that I got into commercial and corporate, and I loved real estate. My family, my father-in-law was in real estate, and I looked up to him, and it was the people around me that said, hey, you need to do this commercial thing, and more than that, you need to get into like what our broker does. He represents all 50 of our locations around the country on the corporate side. Yeah. And so, in the back of my mind, I whatever I put my mind to, I usually get it. And so but I was quiet about it. I wanted to learn everything. And I'm a fast learner. When I was younger and my son's like this, most of my conversations were with my friends' parents. That was just me.
You grew up around high level people, so you were around high level conversations. So the conversations with the homies weren't as high level as the conversation with the adults because you were already mentally surpassed that. Yeah,
I'd end up hanging out with the dads in the living room talking about business or finance or buildings or fun stuff like that, money, cars, and my friends would be playing Xbox or something that I really never was passionate about. And so as I'm sitting there in my first couple of months, I started to just notice how much greed and ego and flex was in the commercial brokerage world. It's a small group of individuals. So, and what's great is,
it's a big room to host them with all those egos.
Oh my gosh. And everybody has their flex, and the corporate world is, you lock your drawers, you lock your files, you can't share anything because, you tell somebody you're working with X client, they get jealous, they cold call your client that you're trying to court, and they say, oh, well, I'm 20 years ahead of this guy. Why would you work with him when you can have me? Right. And
so everybody's stabbing each other in the back type situation.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there going, okay, well, I'm a lot better person than this. How can I be different? And that's where I said, I'm just going to capitalize on treating people the right way. And it was hard because you have to, I had to ask myself, okay, can you do 3 to 5 things for somebody without asking them for business. Take in mind that I'm trying to just make my bills too. Can I do 3 to 5 things of service or love authentically, not bullshit, for somebody in order to just cultivate a relationship? And if at the end of the time they ask for you to be like, hey, tell me what you tell me, or just tell me what you do, you know, or say, hey, I would love to at least learn a little bit about your real estate. I mean, I'm brand new, so it's hard for these big CEOs to be like, yeah, bro, come on in.
Yeah.
But I knew them good enough, like family, that I had no problem asking. And I would even say, hey, I'll bring in a senior guy. I just want to learn. I'll make sure that I pick the best senior
split
guy.
The deal with somebody or whatever.
It was all about the sharing.
Let's learn. Yeah.
And so I started doing it. And it was hard because people are like, no, like, you don't need to do anything for me. But, you know, if I could find a plumber, that would be cool. But no big deal. I'd go find a plumber. And, you know, just through my contacts, I've always been super uber connected like crazy. I just never gave myself enough grace or credit for it, honestly. But I've known everyone. And so I just started to do that. And it became a domino effect where it was like, oh, wow, you know, I got this company's real estate. Oh, I just got this listing. And then people talk. Yeah. When you do something totally different rather than, you know, I'm one and done. A lot of brokers are one and done in my world. And I would rather do 100 deals with 3 guys.
They got their cheddar. They're ready to be done with that one and move on to the next deal.
Yeah. And the biggest thing that you'll hear is, I'm only as good as my next deal. How you doing? I'm only as good as my next deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's not me. I'm only as good as the relationships that I have. Because my next deal is going to come, and the next deal, and the next deal, and forever. There's clients that will be loyal to me as I'm loyal to them forever.
Yeah.
But I can't get complacent, you know, and that's why I have non-negotiables with people that come underneath me that I hire to help me. Is, hey, this is how we roll. I don't expect you to be exactly like me, work as hard as me, you know, treat people like me.
But there's still a standard.
But there's a standard, and it's a non-negotiable. And like I said, I had a junior that had his MBA and was working for Goldman Sachs, and just honestly a killer. And in the first 6 months, as a junior, made $250,000, which is unheard of.
So what did he do differently than the ones that didn't make the $250,000 in the first 6 months? Because that's the thing is like, if you're in real estate, why is one real estate, whether it's residential or not, making $500,000 a year, and then there's the other agent that's struggling to make $100,000 or $150,000 a year, and in commercial, there's guys making millions and millions of dollars a year, and then there's other ones that are probably making $250,000 a year, right?
But did that guy last? That
No.
guy didn't last with you.
He didn't last because he wasn't living by the principles.
Right.
He saw what he was making, and he started to get greedy. He started to, you know, come to me and say, I want more. Started to cut corners. Exactly. He started to make it more about the transaction than the relationship.
Did you have to let him go, or did he work himself out?
Dude, he worked himself out. He knew, because he came to me and was like, Ryan, I just can't treat people the way that you treat people authentically. I appreciated his candor.
Yeah.
His honesty. That's tough, especially when you're making money like that. And I said, well, I'm the type of guy that's always going to leave the door open because I really enjoy working with you. You're a good guy. I'm happy to help you. But honestly, you're going to hurt our business way more than you're going to help it if you're telling yourself that in the mirror, let alone telling me that.
Do you think it's like, when you say he's transactional, is it just like, well, it's just a waste of time to do all these extra things, right? So he's just
you get
like, I don't
addicted to the money, bro.
Yeah.
You get addicted, and that's not a bad thing.
Right.
But you can do it with a little bit of grace and some class.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And it's the little things. When we do a deal and we get it done, we don't just collect our check and then never hear from us again.
Yeah.
No, I do the little things, like, you know, what we learned when we were kids.
Right.
Write the handwritten thank you note. send them something,
Connect
follow
them.
up on their birthdays. I will send them a random text message during the week. I'm thinking about you.
Yeah.
How's your family? How's your kids? Like, what's new? Let's go catch up. You don't have to go take all your clients to lunch, but goodness gracious, you can be a decent man, a decent person, because you go shopping with your friends. Think about going on vacation with a complete stranger compared to somebody that you're really good friends with.
Right.
You guys work together because you're friends.
Yeah, on
first.
vacations we'll fart around each other and whatever.
That's right.
Burp around, but if it was the first time we ever did it, I'd probably hold the fart in.
That's right. But think about that when they're executing on $1 million properties or multi-million dollar properties, or strategies around truck timing and supply chain and logistics and hiring, and we tell them exactly what they need to hear.
Yeah.
And that's been a beautiful thing for me is, I'm just dead honest with people because I've created that connection with them, that they trust me and they know I love them. And so I don't have to just be, we have this group and the activity's great, when no, you know what? We're struggling with this property. Yeah. This one's been tough. They already know we're working our guts off.
Yeah,
They couldn't go hire the next broker and have something better. Yeah. Like there's no competition when it comes to the work ethic and making sure it's in front of the right people.
Right.
But you say that and you say, let's sit down and get creative. What do you think, just from your eyes, or
what could we do differently?
Or how can we pivot? How can we get creative? Yeah. That's to the answer of, why are some of these brokers different? A, it's how they treat people. B, it's you got to put in the work. And C, it's most people aren't creative. Yeah. Again, during COVID, a lot of people just tucked their tail between their legs and said, you know what? Life sucks. Yeah. It's going to be 8 months before I do a deal. I've got to go look at my savings account, make sure that, I'm not spending too much, and I'm going to put my guards up. And where we were in the office the next day saying, okay, let's make sure we call everyone. Let's make sure they're okay. Yeah. Nothing to do with business. Let's make sure they know that we're here. We're not taking it off. Mm-hmm. And B, let's get creative. Yeah. There's like the food storage company. They've got 1 million square feet in Salt Lake City, but they can't even keep product on the shelf because everyone's ordering food storage. Wow. So instead of going, well, landlords are only going to do 5 and 10 year deals on their thing, I'm going to landlords saying, hey, I need a 3-month deal. I need a 4-month deal. It could turn into a 5-year deal or a 10-year deal. I don't know, but it's about my client. Like, how can we work together? We'll make sure that it's spotless clean. We'll make sure that we pay the rent all the way up front. Yeah. And then you just set those expectations on both sides again, but you do it not for the commission. You do it for the gratification of helping somebody.
It's like the epitome of the long game, dude. Like everybody says, like, hey, I'm in it for the long term. Like, it's like, well, no, you're not if you're not actually doing the extra mile or getting creative with a customer and figuring out how you can serve them and connect them or create a different experience in their company to win, right? And that's like, if you are really truly in it for the long game, like, you're going to do all those extra steps to cultivate that relationship instead of just chasing the commission. But most people say they're in the long game, but they're not.
Here's how I look at it, though. Like, when you're talking about the long game, like, you could be transactional and you can do transactions for the rest of your life, right? Like, that just is what it is, and you can still be successful. But how I look at it is, if you're a transactional individual, you will do that for the rest of your life. You're going to have to earn every transaction. If you're playing the long game and you cultivate these relationships over the course of 5 or 10 years, guess what? Business is now knocking on your door where you're not having to just be the transactional chasing business for the rest of your life in order to make that year's check, right?
Yeah.
So to speak,
Right.
or that annual income. Eventually, the annual income finds you if you do all the things right, like building relationships and make it more than just a transaction.
Yeah. And when you're working on those relationships, there's many times where I'll just get a call saying, "Hey, I know that this is probably beyond your bandwidth or too small or whatnot. It's in this state, but I trust you. Can you help me?"
Yeah.
And I'll facilitate, let's just say in Phoenix or Denver. I've got buddies that I trust that I've already set expectations that when I send a referral, they know they've got to treat that person as if Ryan treats them.
Right.
I don't want to have that phone call from my client going, "God, why'd you send me to him or her?"
Yeah.
And so it's, when we talk about the long game and being abundant, it's even one step further than that, being the access point for everything. How many times do I get a message that says, "Hey, you're super connected. I'm trying to find a job. Any ideas?" Do I make any money on that? No.
Right.
But am I going to help? Yeah, because that's who I am. Commercial real estate and brokerage is what I do. It's how I create, a living for my family, for myself, and it's just a resource for me to build my own wealth. Yeah. But
being a good human is
being a good human is a lifelong thing. That's who I am, and that always comes before what I do. So that's been probably the most gratifying thing is being access, whether I'm
I mean, and I think
money or
I
not.
think this is a lesson in business just in general. It's not just for real estate agents or anybody in real estate. It's about the relationship game in general, whether you're talking about in business or in real estate. And real estate is its own business, right? Yeah. It's a sector of business. And so it's just easy to understand it a little bit better when you frame it as real estate. Because I don't know, when you're selling accounting, it's easy. Well, it's just accounting. No, you're building relationships with people, whether it's accounting, whether it's a toy store, because it's a feeling or an emotion that people get when they're around you or they do business with you. That's what's going to keep them coming back. So it's far more about the experience and the relationship than it is a transaction. Anybody can do the ones and twos on a P&L. Anybody could sell them a piece of commercial real estate, but not everybody can make them feel the way that they feel when they buy a piece of commercial real estate. And that's the big difference in life or business in general. If you want to be of success, make sure that you have an emotion or a feeling that every single time somebody's around you, that's what they feel. They know that you have their back. They know that you're going to take care of them. And when you send them somebody, they don't question it because it came from you. And it just feels good to have people like that in your corner and people like that in your life that are connected, that are good, that are genuine. And therefore, the universe takes care of you because you're doing all the right things, right?
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter the business or the industry. If you take those same principles and apply it to your life, you'll be successful in whatever vertical you're in.
Well, I'll say that most people, not all, most, they want to reciprocate. You know what I mean? It does not feel good to just like take or receive without like
wanting
giving
to give some back,
right?
yeah.
So if you can create an experience like, man, Ryan really helped me out in that time where I needed a job and he connected me here, and here. And then that guy ends up, whatever, having an opportunity to then serve some business back Ryan's way. He's going to do it one day.
Or the company that he works for is looking for a commercial or something. Hey, you should, hit up Ryan.
Well, I think that people kind of confuse, like, we're talking about long game and being transactional and all these things. And people kind of confuse like where they need to be urgent, like have an urgency, right? Because like when you're in sales and you're out networking, you're trying to do deals and you're trying to feed your family, it's like it's easy to get transactional because you're just urgent. You're like urgently trying to get all these things done, but it's hard to be urgent and build long-term relationships. But you just have to kind of flip it a little bit and it's a really good strategy because people do want to reciprocate. So if you can be urgent in like trying to help solve a problem for somebody instead of just get your deal done, like you're just flipping the script. You can still be urgent. I look for that when I'm hiring a sales guy or we're hiring accountants. Like we want people that are gonna be like, okay, this is a problem we need to solve. We need to do it urgently, but not transactionally, where it's just one and done over and over and over again, churn and burn, a lot of times people get that confused. They're like, I'm just trying to be urgent because I got a lot to do in order to hit my goals. And it's like, okay, well then you need to be urgent about helping people and making it reciprocal so that you can actually win the long game, right? And
well, I think that they're just putting the end result in the front and not really thinking about the equation that creates the end result, right? Like 1 + 1 = 2, right? So that's the equation, and it equals that. So taking care of people, loving them, doing the right thing, being an individual there of service even outside of your industry, that's the equation, and the transaction ends up being the result, right? Like people want to lose 20 pounds. They're focused on the end result. What is the process? What's the equation to lose 20 pounds? I'm going to show up to the gym every single day for the next year. That's what I'm going to focus on. And by default, the result will happen. And so I think people put the end in mind, and they're doing business with the end in mind. In other words, the result. And that causes some issues personally, because you're not going to feel good about who you are. You're going to know deep down that all you are is a transactional individual. It feels good more so to be of service than it does to make lots of money, right? Like there's plenty of people that sacrifice their life. We had that lady on our podcast that she goes around and helps the sex trafficked children and try to rescue. You know, they're of service. They're far richer than a lot of people are in life in general, not necessarily financially, but because they're of service, they are an individual that feels different within themselves. And that's really what it's about. I think a lot of people that just go straight to transactional, they don't feel good about who they are. And that's a way for them to make themselves feel good and feel worthy, right? That it's that transaction that says, oh, you're worthy. Here's a $50,000 commission check. They don't understand that there's a greater feeling in taking care of a human being and then by default having a $50,000 commission check, right? So we have to stop thinking about the end result and start thinking about really the ingredients that it takes to create the end result and focus more on the ingredients. If the ingredients are waking up and going to the gym every single day to get to whatever your weight loss goal is, just focus on doing that and don't focus on the scale. By default, if you do that, the scale will take care of itself.
Yeah,
and so you focused on loving and taking care of people and serving people, and guess what? The result figured itself out, right? And so that's what I think people miss is we just focus on what we want and just go after what we want rather than focusing on what it takes to get what we want.
And also acknowledging what it takes outside the gym. Yep. Okay, I'll go to the gym for 12 months straight, waking up. But outside of the gym, when you're alone, when you have those temptations of bad food or whatnot, are you getting your mind straight? Are you making sure that you're not overeating or you're eating the right foods? And what's nice is you don't really have to be on a quote-unquote diet in order to get shredded. Last month I was down in Scottsdale speaking at the Upgrade X conference in John Madsen that runs Superhuman. He's a great friend of mine.
Oh, is that the NFL dude that's all jacked and ripped and diced?
Yep. But again, he
was in Avengers as well. Is that where you met him?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's become a brother with me, and I'll tell you what, the way that he's doing that has nothing to do with, hey, going to the gym, getting a bodybuilder, diet and workout plan. He helps people get their mind right. And the people that are a part of that program, some of them are 60, 70, 80 years old. Some of them are, 20, 30, male, female, and they're not just getting into better shape. They're getting completely ripped. And it has very little to do with the workouts that they do. It has everything to do with their head.
Their mindset.
And telling themselves that they can do it rather than having that, insecure fat boy syndrome that they're not good enough. In business, I think probably the best thing that I've ever applied or learned or taught was the 7 levels of energy. That when you go to a deal and let's just say I'm representing a buyer, I'm talking to the seller, and the seller tells me, hey, this is an okay deal for me. Like, I feel good enough to do the deal, but my buyer is just completely winning. You know, it's such a win. Well, in your mind, you're thinking, I'm representing the buyer. Like, I'm doing a good job. But I can feel, I'm such an intuitive person now doing this for years and years and years. A transactional guy would have been like, I could care less what the seller feels. I could care less if the seller says it's not a good deal for me, but I'm desperate, I'm going to do it.
Right.
And the buyer's just, winning. I mean, the buyer's going to be grateful for you. But that intuition over the years of just really feeling it, I'll take it one step further and I'll say, hey, I can feel like, there might be some resentment down the road, because that's the last thing you want is somebody like a landlord to resent a tenant for years and years and years because their broker just outbrokered them. It happens. So I'll get to know that seller and I'll say, hey, we're winning over here like crazy. I can feel like, you're almost to the point where you're feeling like a win, but it's good enough for you. Let's find a middle ground where we both win. Where do you feel? Because again, this is about the long game. This is the abundance. It could be that my guy pays $5,000 more. That's not even going to affect anything. It could be as simple as, hey, maybe we split the paint cost in the office. That might be a couple $1,000, but it's weighing on that landlord so much.
Yeah.
Try thinking about what a landlord or a property owner is going to think about this, agent, broker on the other side of the table when he said, hey, let's create this win-win. Where's it at? Well, this is where I feel comfortable. Okay. Guess what? We feel comfortable with that too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you with my experience, that seller usually calls me after and says, what do I got to do to have you be my guy?
Yeah.
Because I want all of my tenants to feel like I love them, like I care for them, that I'm not screwing them over. And when those hard conversations like, hey, I got to raise your rent, the tenant goes, I understand. Yeah. I know that guy's not trying to rake me over. I know that he cares about me. It's that one extra thing. It's like, the power of one more is so much. And it's that, what is your secret sauce? So no matter what, even if the roles are flipped.
You're just taking care of people, and it doesn't matter the people or the person that's in front of you.
It's
You're
the
taking care
bigger
of
picture. It's the long game.
Yeah.
Because, you ask, okay, why are some brokers making millions in commissions, and why are some brokers trying to figure out how they can get a deal?
Yeah.
And they're working, 2 jobs and they're just okay. That's why.
Yeah.
It's that, what are they doing extra in order to create that?
How are they separating
special,
themselves?
100%.
Like we said, anybody can do a transaction, but what makes you different throughout that transaction,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and when you bring a deal to the table, my goal has always been to be one that people talk and be like, I'm glad that I saw Ryan bring a deal to the table or an LOI. I know for a fact that this could be a real deal, rather than, he's just throwing offers from tire kickers. And, I educate so much on the front
end. He's the low ball guy, or he's this guy, or he's that. No, he's the fair
he doesn't
guy.
have real people. He's just throwing offers just to try and.
I've had 10 offers from him, and he don't do nothing.
That's
with it.
right. He doesn't execute, but the way that you can get there is educating. We talked about this prior to the podcast. The best thing that salespeople can do is educate prior.
Right.
Set expectations, just like you do with your relationships. Set expectations with the people that you work with. Hey, look, I'm going to list your property in today's market with all the weird things going on. Here's the low, and here's the high. Yes, of course we want to go for the high, but if we get an offer at this number, we're going to take it very seriously. You're not going to get greedy. You're not going to think that your property is better. We're going to remove the emotion. Facts are facts. Yep. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to push here and I'm not going to try and get there, but I'll tell you what, the market's here, and that's the real reality of it. And if you can't take this deal, I'm going to educate you. Let's just hang tight. Well, that doesn't give you a commission, Ryan. Okay, but I care about you because at one day, at one time, at one point, I'm going to get a commission. And if I'm treating you like that with honesty, you're going to tell all your friends, right?
Rich people hang out with rich people. It's weird.
That's weird, huh?
Yeah, they are who they hang out with.
Yep.
You know, is there anything that you do on a day-to-day basis that if you don't do, it kind of throws you off?
Work out.
Okay.
Absolutely. I every day before I can make other people feel good and serve them and love them to the highest capacity.
Yeah.
Even the people that work with me and brokers that I encounter with every day.
Yeah.
I get myself right. I do a lot of breath work. I meditate. I work out. I get Ryan right, and I feel Ryan's cup all the way full.
Yeah.
How long have you been living a life like that?
Since I was 18.
So you had like your meditation, your day, you had the same kind of morning routine for a long time?
I didn't meditate.
Has it morphed
and,
slowly? Like, talk about, let's say, from you just being the guy that works out all the time to really refining kind of some of the habits that you feel as though that fill up your cup. Because we talk about some of this stuff, right? We tell people, hey, this is, have some sort of routine that gets you kind of centered and fills up your cup so that you can go out in the world and handle your business. But I just think that this morning routine or any routine is always ever evolving, and you're trying to grow out of what you're currently doing into something even gretter, right?
Yeah.
So it started with the gym every single morning, and then you added what?
Yeah, it evolves. It's different every day, honestly. There's days I'm a very intuitive person, so there's days that my body is not in workout mode, and my body might be in a spiritual mode. So maybe I'm reading a book, maybe I'm doing breath work, which I've just learned over the last couple of months how to do it really well.
Did you do it with Dr. Shannon?
Yeah.
Did you do it with Shannon? She's
I
awesome.
swear, I was just about to say that because I was like, I think on one of your Instagram stories.
Changed my life, man.
Dude, it's
it changed my life.
Incredible.
The problem is I do so much for others that I forgot how to receive.
Yeah.
And I would get complimented, or I'd have all this business, or these awards, and it was like, oh, I feel bad that I'm the one getting all these, but I'm grateful for them because I work my guts off.
Right.
Like I know why I get them, but I had those barriers because we've been always taught, growing up, especially in Salt Lake City, that this is how you're supposed to feel. You have to be humble. This is what you don't say. This is what you don't do. This is my expectation of you. And if you do this, then this is what's going to happen.
Right.
Whereas, okay, well, let me control that because I'm authentic when I love people.
Right.
I'm honest when I say that I'm the first one there and the last one gone. It's the truth. And Shannon taught me through breath work how to drop those guards down and feel everything. Feel mad, feel sad, feel happy.
Have you ever done like DMT or ayahuasca stuff?
No, I've played around a little bit with some, other things that are less,
aggressive.
I've been invited to do that. I'm open to that, but even just the breath work and meditation, I've always been really connected to God, and so I pray hard, and I'm starting to speak more and influence others, and I train brokers, and more than anything is I want to be that authentic person that people can relate to.
Right.
Because, when I talk about real estate, especially in the corporate world where we're doing underwriting and legal, you're basically like a CPA mixed with a lawyer.
Right.
Like that's not a lot of people can relate to cap rates and underwriting and all this crazy stuff that we do.
Yeah.
You see, oh, that's a big sweet warehouse, but there's so much
that goes into
that had to go into that.
Yeah.
Like smarts, and you have your personality and your tenure in the business. But where I can relate to people is through getting themselves, right. So I talk about my morning routine. It's about filling your cup before you fill everybody else's cup. And I've been that guy that's honestly tried to fill your cup, and I have nothing in my cup, and I'm doing everything I can just to you know, I'm still pouring.
Yeah.
And I realized, man, I can't affect people. They can't feel it as much when I'm not taking that time for myself.
That's why it's so important to fill your cup up in the morning, in your routine, in your workout, your breath work, your meditation, your praying, so that you can go and pour into other people's cups throughout the day. You know what I mean? Empty cup's not that bad as long as you can refill it the next day.
Yeah.
And you know what?
I guess that's the goal, is to empty the cup, but make sure that you fucking fill that bitch up the next day.
I'll tell you what, and probably the greatest blessing that I learned from Shannon was, it's okay that you don't have a full cup every day.
Yeah.
Just acknowledge it.
Yeah.
You know, we have such a tough shield, you know, especially when you're surrounding yourself with these mega entrepreneurs and these billionaires and millionaires and people that are just, from the outside, they're just so successful.
Yeah.
You know, and the comment that I get all the time is, "Oh, your life just seems so perfect." Oh my gosh. Guys, I struggle.
Well, we know your beard is. Your beard looks good, bro. I already told you got that George Clooney look already. If he wants to, he could go straight GQ on us and just get rid of real estate altogether.
You guys are funny.
You know? So
but no, it's giving yourself permission to feel it all.
Well, the only reason why I asked about the ayahuasca DMT thing or whatever, because me and Kale did it. You know, I went, you know, to the most amazing place in the world when I did DMT. Kale didn't feel anything, but then we did the breath work with Shannon.
Yeah.
And it's literally like doing drugs.
Yep.
You're getting high on your own supply of oxygen. Right. Like, just breathe a lot of that shit.
DMT supply in you.
In you.
have to tap into it. That's what breathwork does.
Dude, it was literally, I felt the DMT. Kel went somewhere on the breathwork. Like, he had the full on straight up experience. I had the experience with the DMT and the breathwork. And I will tell you right now, the breath work is just as powerful as a DMT drug.
It is.
So you don't have to do DMT if that's a scary thing or something you don't want to do. You just have to put an hour of work in, breathing pretty heavy, you know, and your body gets all stiff and ice cold, and you know.
I'll tell you what.
Nervous, like, oh, should I push farther?
I'll tell you what. The more that you do it, the faster you can get into that state. Because there's days I can get in a minute and a half, and there's days that.
It takes like 30 minutes to get there or whatever.
Yeah. And again, that's where the mind comes in. You're like, hey.
So did you write like a word down? Just like, you know.
I always have an intention.
Okay.
And it's sometimes they're the same. Sometimes it just depends on what my workload is. Or
what's incredible about it is I wrote down the word peace, right? I honestly believe every human on the planet, that's really all they want. Right? People chase lots of money. Why? Because they think it could buy them happiness. In other words, peace, right?
Sure.
Like, it's going to give them all of these things. So I wrote down the word peace. And as I was getting deep into the breath work, the message says, well, you can't have peace, dude. And I'm like, well, why? Because you like control. You can't have control and have peace. Those two things are complete opposites. You need to decide what you want. If you want true peace, you have to give up control. You have to be okay with whatever the outcome is, no matter what the outcome is, and just be at peace. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to control too much, you can't be at peace, because now you're trying to control everybody else, every situation, and there's going to be things that happen that you don't have control over that's going to fluster you. Therefore, you can't have peace if you try to retain control. So you have to actually let go a little bit in order to have peace. And then it went one step further. Why do I need control? Do I have the need to be needed? Does that feel good to me to have people reach out to me and need me? Does it make me feel important? Does it tickle my ego? Mm-hmm. Right? And so that's what's cool thing about like breath work and getting deep into some of that shit. Yeah. Some of the answers just become so vivid and so clear as you get deep into the breath work. It's like, oh, well, if you want to do that, you just got to do this, you idiot. You know, well, why do I got to do that? And then it goes one step further, and literally it just unlocks.
Yeah, that's the power in it. I've tried to do some like breath work on my own, and it's good and it's healthy. But it's like when you're doing it with Shannon, it's like, whoa, dude. It's like, I don't know. I haven't been able to go as deep as when I do with her. I've even done it. There's a guy locally here that puts together like little breathwork sessions. Actually, they're pretty big. There's like 70 people there.
Yeah.
Me and my wife went to it, and it was a different technique, and she's pretty gifted, dude. Because I've experienced other people. I've tried to do it myself, but like, and we've had her at our own masterminds. We've done it a few times with her now. Yeah. And it's like, dude, she's pretty gifted at what she does.
No, she is. And one thing that.
Why did you do it?
Well,
what were you seeking?
I do so much for others. I'm such a giver and a giver and a giver. And
So you got to the point where you were drained?
and I talk about customer service and loving people, and honestly, it got to the point where I was feeling like I was being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Not only by, people that were working for me, but the success and the deal flow and all of that kind of stuff. I just, I've never been a guy that's like, gimme, 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 gimme. I've always been like, oh, I feel bad for you. Like, here's a deal.
Yeah.
I know that you're working your guts off. You just don't get it. Here you go.
Yeah.
And then it would turn into, well, I need more. And I'm like, well, can't you just be grateful for I'm literally just facilitating and it fills my cup to facilitate.
Right.
But when you do it, and I was having a hard time receiving, I wasn't receiving at all. When I'd get a compliment, I'd be like, oh, thanks.
Yeah.
And because I was always a giver.
Yeah.
I hadn't cried for, 15 or 20 years. I was losing my grandma, which, was everything to me. And I just needed to surrender, and I didn't know how.
Yeah.
And so I met Shannon, obviously, through Avengers. And
Did you do the breath work because me and Kel, that's where we met her at Avengers.
San Diego one, yeah.
She did it again. Yeah, she did it again. But I took my team down, like on a retreat down to Scottsdale,
awesome,
and we went to Cody's office and did it, and it was more personal touch.
Yeah.
And I just gave myself permission just to feel it all.
Yeah.
And I didn't care at that point if, I was going to freak out or be pissed or, cry.
You were willing to do anything to get out of this.
I was so ready to take that next step in my life because I know that there's so much that I have to offer. And, but in podcasts or speaking or whatever, I want to be authentic. I don't want just to tell people, here's my flex. I want to tell people what it takes to get to the place that they want to be.
To get to the flex.
And I'll tell you what, you want to know how many times I've had to fall on the ground and scrape and be the lowest of lows that people don't hear about. It's not talked about much. But in order to even get close to the top, like there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of struggles. There's, marriage problems, kid problems. There's all of the things that you go through that you just don't talk about.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be that authentic person so that I could relate. Yeah. Again, like I keep saying that real estate's what I do. It's how I make my money, but it's not who I am. And I wanted to showcase in order to relate to people, whether they were new in business or they were, the CEO of Kroger. It didn't matter that we could relate on a lot of different things. And that breath work really just allowed my guards to just drop.
Yeah.
And I learned then that my love language was words of affirmation.
So when I told you that you have a perfect beard and you could be
it made me feel good.
Good.
It did.
But it's the truth because I wouldn't say that to an ugly fucker sitting across the room.
Well, we're twins, bro. And
yeah, I was talking to my reflection right there behind you. Actually,
there you go.
No, just get you. Damn, you're weird.
but I learned to accept, receive when it was, hey, you totally scored for our company, rather than, oh, it's no big deal. I say, I acknowledge that. I worked my guts off for it. And so many people will say, well, you have no idea what I did. I started telling people what I do.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, well, okay. It wasn't just 15 minutes of a phone call that got you that $100,000 commission.
Yeah.
Because brokers get stereotyped of, well, you're just a broker. Let me
sell sign, and then somebody calls them, and then they do a deal.
Or landlords will be, oh, well, that only took you 15-minute phone call, and you're making $100,000. Like, that's not fair. Well, I started educating people and receiving, hey, thank you for saying that. That actually makes me super happy because I've been cultivating that relationship for 12 years.
Yeah.
And it's taken you 2 years of trying to just get to that person because you didn't want to pay a commission, to finally call me. And in the first phone call, he picked up. Why? Because it for 12 years, I've had that relationship.
Yeah.
And I monetized on that relationship, and sometimes it takes 15 minutes, and sometimes it takes 15 months.
Yeah.
And so it's the value that you put in.
Right.
And honestly, the greatest thing that anyone could do to become more successful or more noticed, because it's not about what you know, it's about who knows you, and one or who you know, and one step further, who knows you.
Right.
Right.
Reputation.
And what you're doing about that, and what good that you're doing. So I ask myself the question every day, who do I want to be? You can be anybody you want to be. Who is it?
Yeah.
It's not who mom wants you to be. It's not who this person wants you to be, or your partner wants you to be. It's who Ryan wants you to be.
Right.
And so go do it and drop the guards.
Yeah.
You know, give yourself permission to do everything. Yeah. So, you know, I said I hadn't cried in 15 or 20 years because of those guards, right? It's how we grew up. It's just the bubble that we live in, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
And now I'm way more emotional.
Yeah.
I can relate to my kids better. I can relate to, you know, my relationships better. I can relate to my clients better. I can tell people, hey, I'm struggling.
Yeah.
You know, like the Sean Whalens of the world that have become like brothers to me. I could call him and say, I'm struggling. And you'd think he'd be like, get going, like, because he's just a tough guy, right? Manly man. Yeah. And it's like, hey, Ryan, me too.
Yeah.
Let's talk. And there's more people in the world that you might think are just nothing but flex, but they're just dudes like us.
Right.
That have big hearts. They just don't know how to drop their guards.
Yeah.
And so that breath work, honestly, and you meditate during your breath work, because that's really what it is you're tapping into a different person of yourself, a higher person
that has all the answers.
Yeah. And you write down peace. Well, having money brings you a little bit of peace because you're not scrambling to make your bills.
Right.
But look what you can do with the money to create peace.
Right.
You know, the wealthy people or the rich people are the ones that are changing the world in reality.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, but getting myself right has only escalated my income. Yeah. You know, and my income isn't, you know, I don't want to be a tenant chaser, a broker the rest of my life. You know, I enjoy what I do. I'll do it forever and ever. I'm never going to retire. I'm always going to be productive.
You're always being a deal here or there.
Guys, I'm working to build wealth for my family, because wealth makes money when you're sleeping.
Right.
And it makes money when you're in the ground.
Absolutely.
And that's the influence I want to have on my kids.
That's one thing that I've seen with some agents that make a lot of money. They start living the lifestyle of a high-performing agent, but they don't necessarily diversify or create, you know, additional sources of income. You know, taking the money that they're making and make investments, so they're going to have to do these deals or transactions for the rest of their life. They've just kind of settled into that groove. This is what I do. This is what I'll do for 40 years, rather than potentially using it as a vehicle to create a second or third or fourth stream of income. And talking to you before the show, I mean, you do a whole bunch of different stuff. You do your own land deals or your own, you know, your own side stuff. And so that's probably also been able to help you compound your wealth even more, rather than just staying on the, hey, let's just buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell. What can I do for me, right? Do you talk a lot about that with like some of your younger brokers, like saying, hey, guys, long vision, what are you guys trying to do? Use this as a vehicle to create wealth rather than a vehicle just to live off of.
Absolutely. And the only way that I've been able to in the last couple of years talk to them is by applying it myself.
Yeah.
Because you can talk the talk, but if you're not walking the walk and you're not doing it and you can't show them, it's a completely different story.
So you can tell somebody to go to the gym if you weigh 400 pounds, and it's probably
just go to the gym, dude.
Yeah, I got all the answers. Go to the gym.
And you know, I got sick in 2020 with some colon issues and lost, you know, all my muscle. I was so little. I was like 140 pounds, but yet I was completely shredded. I couldn't work out. I had no energy. I couldn't eat because it would just come right back up. Yeah. And
look like Brad Pitt in Fight Club, dude.
Exactly. And it was, well, how in the world? I said, it's the 6 inches of real estate between my ears. That's why I stayed shredded. Is because I looked in the mirror and I said, it doesn't matter what challenge God's going to give you. It's you. Yeah. Are you going to be one that just says, oh, it's God's fault? No. God's given me a test, and it's because he knows I'm strong enough to do it. So let's see how strong I am. And, I went to lots of doctors. I got on lots of medicine. Like, nothing was working. Colonoscopy, endoscopy, all these different things. Every doctor in the world, yeah, you have this. No, I don't have this. Like, I'm so intuitive of how I feel. How did I get over it? How did I start putting on weight? My head.
Yeah.
I started saying, you can do this, right? I was praying. I have faith, which is great. But again, let's just say you don't believe in, let's just say you don't believe in God. The universe is giving me a challenge.
Yeah.
Am I going to surrender, or am I going to step up? And you can apply it into business. Is when the hard times come, like a COVID, dude, just turn your hat backwards and say, okay, where can I get creative? Where can I bless people? People need me more than I need people.
Right.
So again, it's in order to go and serve and fill those cups and get creative, you got to do stuff in the background where no one's looking. And that's, getting up, whether you work out in the morning or at the night, but getting your head straight and just being authentic. And again, it doesn't come easy. It's hard. I still struggle every day with certain things.
Well,
that
why
inner
you have
bitch
the routine
voice.
is because you struggle. And that's what people need to
you
understand.
acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Again, through breath work, I go, okay, I'm feeling this way because of this. Mm-hmm. Whereas 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years ago, I would have said, oh, this is a moment where I need to just get depressed.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, okay, I acknowledge it.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for these feelings that I have. I want to kill someone.
Yeah.
But I know exactly what to do because I'm in full control of that headspace. And
I can reset it.
Yeah, I can turn this and just change the ingredients a little bit and deliver a healthy meal rather than this completely being a shit pie.
Yeah.
And but it comes with practice. It comes with confidence. It comes with giving yourself some grace, which I never did. It was always my fault. It was always me. I'll take the blame, in everything that I do. And that's not a bad thing, but at the same time,
make sure you're taking care of yourself. If that's the guy that you are,
exactly,
or gal that you are.
Yeah.
Like, you could take so many arrows in the back or whatever, but make sure that you're working on you so that you're strong enough to continue to do so.
Well, I feel like what we've talked about here today, I mean, ultimately, it's the greatest strategy in business ever, right? But also in life. Like, and I can still relate to so many things, but in a nutshell, I've been on both sides of just like you. Like, you just take to just learn, to grow, and you become unfulfilled, and then you become this great giver, which is again one of the greatest strategies ever of business. And you just give, and I've been in the same boat where it's like you can't even receive a compliment, right? And then you just have nothing left to give. And I read this book, Beyond Positive Thinking, where it talks about, like, really, if you want to become where you're at right now, and you're such a great example of, if you want to become this great human that has a thriving ecosystem around him, you have to be like a pond with the law of circulation. Because if you're a pond that just takes water in and then boom, it just nothing lets nothing out, you become stale, you become poisoned. Everything that would be in that pond, like maybe some frogs or some plants around it, it's just going to die or it's going to leave, right? And then at the same time, if you open up that floodgate and you just give till there's nothing left to give, well, now you're just a dried up pond with nothing, and again, everything around it dies. And so you have to really focus on becoming a circulating pond, a stream that will receive, fill up, and a stream that will let out and fill up other ponds below it, right? And that's really like always stuck with me when I read it that way. I was like, man, that's so true. And that really is the ultimate way to succeed in not just business, but life, is how can I receive well and take care of me, and how can I give well and fill up other ponds as well? And that's kind of what we talked about in this whole entire episode. And it's such a blessing, one, to have you here today, and it's so cool to see you popping up on our social media and in our feeds and seeing our circles. And I just love what you're doing too, and just talking about the things that you're talking about, because that's what really more people need to know about. Like, they're either in that taking mode and they just don't know how to give right, or they're in that give mode and they just don't know how to receive right. And so I just think the message has been super badass today, and it's really just awesome to
I mean,
bring it full circle because it's just such a cool conversation. Yeah. And we don't have these conversations all the time. A lot of times it's, promoting or somebody because they have a cool product or they have a cool message, but this whole entire message is just super valuable. And if everybody could adopt that or put some focus on it, like their lives literally will change. It's like the quickest way to change.
Well, what you said is an ecosystem. Yeah. You were talking about an ecosystem. So what type of ecosystem are you creating for your life that's equal, right? Where you can give and that you could receive,
right.
just
as he's
talking about. Because sometimes we get caught up on one side, whether it's just giving or just receiving or whatever it is, and it's just so one-sided. Just like there's a yes, there's a no. Just like there's a heaven, there's a hell. There's a yin and there's a yang. Things have to come back into balance, and if you get so far off on one side, you end up finding some low spots, right? That's why that balance of that yin and that yang, that give and that receive, those are important. You give, you should acknowledge the receipt of the things, whether it's an accomplishment or somebody acknowledging, so an acknowledgement, whatever it is, receive that so that you have the ability to actually have the capacity to even give more. Because again, when somebody's trying to fill up your cup, take it.
Yeah. Well, and something your listeners should be aware of is not a lot of people give themselves the grace because they look at, individuals like in my business. My business bears good fruit when you work hard. You know, it's commission based. You can make hay or you can make nay. Yeah. But this applies to the thanks. This applies to the school teacher. This applies to the janitor. This applies to any individual that you can be an influence in more ways than you know it to be when you're filling your cup and you're leading with love, and that's hard because the definition of happiness isn't money. The definition of happiness is being fulfilled in every aspect of your life and filling. Right. And and most people stop at, I could never accomplish what he's accomplished. But you know what? It's probably because you haven't failed like I've failed.
Right. Yep. You have to go through it. You have to go through stuff. Like people go through that mode of just earning the commission and then they have to get real with themselves and feel like, oh my gosh, I'm just taking before they can become a giver. And then, have to feel what it's like to give and not receive in order to.
Don't stop when you're down. Yeah. Because, when I got sick, I could have stopped. Yeah. There were many times I did not want to be on this earth. I had no energy. I felt like, my kids would be better without me. Yeah. My business would be better without me. I have nothing to give. And I just realized, you know what? Quit complaining. Quit letting that inner bitch voice that you heard all growing up dictate you. Yeah. When you know that this is just a period of time. So what did I do? I just started being honest with people because they were like, is everything okay? I mean, I'm 60 pounds in 25, 30 days. When you don't have any fat on you, it's a challenge. And you know what I did? I just started being authentic. Yeah. Hey, I'm going through a lot right now. It's my health. Thank goodness I have amazing people that work with me. Yeah. And that's
a new lesson right there. If you're not honest, you can't receive the help that you actually need until the honesty is present. When you probably said, I am dealing with shit, but your team rallied around you rather than saying, our leader's not healthy, let's go somewhere else.
Even your clients, my clients were, and when you're serving and loving people and you're authentic, because again, you're filling their cups, how many of my clients, the biggest clients, the smallest clients, would just show up at my house.
Just to check
I'm
in
here
on
for you. Yeah. I don't care about business. I'm here for you. I'm not leaving you. Yeah. When I'm discouraged that, maybe this might affect something because I don't have the energy. Mm-hmm. Well, I've trained my team well, but I'm putting all my eggs in their basket. And again, I'm going to work. I'm going through the motions, but
I think a lot of people go through that, though, just as entrepreneurship. They go about it the wrong way. They grind themselves into the ground, and then right before they're ready to quit and give up, they say, well, it's either quit and give up or I've got to find a better way to do this. You get so desperate that you start actually experimenting with self and saying, okay, well, I'm going to quit, and this is the way I've been doing it, so if I keep doing that, this is the result. I have no other choice that if I don't want to quit, I've got to find a new way to live.
go.
Right. And so usually at the lowest of lows is when the best things happen, because you have no other choice. You have to make a change or it's all said and done. And then you start creating different routines, habits, breath work, putting the lab coat on, trying shit for Ryan that fills up Ryan's cup. And guess what? It might not be breath work for some, I would say it is probably for 100% of people, but whatever, just for the sake of saying it. Like maybe getting up and working out is not somebody's thing. Maybe it's getting up and just going for a walk or yoga or stretching or just the breath work. But the idea is to put the lab coat on and figure out what makes you feel best in your body, in your mind, in your soul. This is something that you're stuck with for the rest of your life. You might as well start playing with it a little bit and being honest and saying, well, that does feel good. Okay, I want to do more of that.
Yeah, and ask for help.
This
too.
feels good. Oh, I'm going to do more of that. And then you start creating routines. And even then, there's always little experiments that happen. I'm going to throw this curveball into my routine and see if I like it. Right. And so that's really what happens after you start seeing some success. You've made money, but yet you feel like this big. You're like, okay, well, all that money's not making me feel great. So maybe I need to focus on actually feeling great so that I can continue to make this type of money.
Well,
right?
The most beautiful thing that happened to me during that time is, all of the years and years and years that I've asked people, what can I do to do, serve you, help you?
Yeah.
It was reciprocated. It was, hey, Ryan, what can I do to serve and help you?
Yeah.
And instead of going, oh, nothing, I'd say, you know what, you could do this.
Well, maybe
or,
you needed
what?
that
You could do
experience
this.
so
Oh
that
my
you
gosh.
could, like that happen
Yes.
for you so that you have the ability to live a more fulfilled life and actually be where you're at now. Maybe the Ryan that if he never experienced that low wouldn't have experimented. Therefore, you would have just been cold, dry, emotionless for the next 15 years, right?
Yeah, I never gave myself permission to receive. And that was a moment that God or whoever it was gave me that challenge that I had to learn how to receive. When you pray to become humbled or more sensitive, God's not just going to give you, humility and sensitivity. He's going to put things in your way that's going to force you to be that way.
Yeah.
And again, you got to do the work. And so I'm grateful for those experiences,
no doubt.
And it's just made myself
It's a lot easier on the other
more
side
aware.
to say it. But I think some of even the best people in the world, even when they're at lows, like in their brains turning on them, they still kind of have this other side of their mind, like, I'm still in the fight. I'm still in the fight. I can do something. I need to make the tweaks or changes, right?
I was just talking about Tony Robbins with Justin Prince, and he was like, did you know his vocal cords blew out? I'm like, I didn't know that. And he's like, dude, he is the probably
blew out.
Most people would say he's the top
speaker
in the world.
Yeah, sure.
And
that would be hard to dispute it.
When you go to his events, I mean, he's 12 hours of,
for like 3 days straight.
Well, his years and years of doing that, his vocal cords had worn down to where they're hanging by nothing. Boom, they blew out. And doctors literally told him, like, dude, you're not going to speak anymore. It's going to be tough to, like, whisper. You know what I mean? And he's like, no. Like, all the work that he's put into his mind and the power of his mind is like, no, I'm going to overcome this. And he's still out there speaking. His vocal cords are shredded, dude, to this day.
Wow.
But he still finds a way to
I
speak.
had no idea.
Physically, that's impossible, right? And it's like, but mentally,
same with Joe
he figured
Dispenza.
out how to do it, So it's kind of, I mean, but that's the
mind-
thing is when you live like this, intentionally like this way we're talking about, and you give yourself permission and you create like a mind that's that powerful, like you can overcome anything.
Yeah,
man.
the mind is so powerful. I would say the last nugget would be that's two things. My core principles are make a lot of money, which people usually judge, in order to help a lot of people. That's number two.
Have a look to where you could be a GQ model if you ever retire.
Yeah, exactly.
What's number 3?
Have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Doing it.
Yeah.
And one of the principles on my wall that we walk by every day, it's an absolute non-negotiable, whether it's in business, in life, in a listing appointment, in a podcast, is be 100% present in everything that you do. Whether you have 10 minutes with your son, or, hey, daddy, put your phone down. Like, put your phone down, communicate. Yeah. Hey, I've got 10 minutes, and then I got to jump on this call. Give them 10 minutes, be 100% present in everything you do, whether it's date night, whether it's, a listing, whether it's a podcast. and your world will change just
So
by
make
doing
money,
that one little thing.
Make money, have fun, be present.
Yeah. Make money, help a lot of people, have a lot of fun, and be 100% present in everything that you do.
Yeah. I think I finally, who said it? Be where your feet are. Who said that? Was that Ed or somebody? Anyway, we always hear be present, but for some reason when I heard that way, like unlocked it for me. Like, dude, be where your feet are. Duh.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like go down the rabbit hole with
yourself
on that, because you'll realize, well,
a lot of people aren't present. Let's be real.
No,
they're
they're not.
distracted by something else, their thoughts and something else. They're in their phone. That's just the way the world's designed. It's actually designed to pull your focus. We were just talking, and I'll say this as the last thing to say, just wrapping up. You know, I'm rereading the book, The Brain, for the third time because I didn't highlight everything, so I was pissed. So I wanted to go through and highlight all the good stuff, you know. And so now that's what I'm doing, is going through all my old books, highlighting everything so that when I want to open it up and find nuggets, that I have the ability to do that quickly, right? But there's a section in there, and I think that everybody could relate to this. In moments in life, if you're falling or you had a car accident or whatever, it feels as though that time slows down. It's almost like you experienced it in slow motion, right? And there's people saying, oh, I had a near-death experience. The car, I was flying in slow motion and then hit the ground or whatever it is. And a lot of people have that same thing happen right before something scary, right? And they've done plenty of different studies on it. And what it is that your brain takes all the energy and all the focus on everything else that it's doing and collapses it. It says, holy shit, we have a problem. Focus on that one problem. Whether it's a car act, you know, and you're seeing it in slow motion, it's not happening in slow motion. Is you're actually taking in detail of the situation at a magnified level because your focus has intensified. To you, it feels like it's in slow motion because of how focused you are. So if you could actually control your brain and focus 100% of your attention on one thing forever, you would be walking through this world like the world's in slow motion. It goes by so quick right now because we're not completely and 100% focused. So the power of focus is it actually has the ability to slow down time and make you that much greater and that much more powerful and take in the detail. So when you're talking about being present, that's an element of focus, and you have the ability to take in more detail in that moment, whether it's through a conversation or whatever it is. But the power of focus is true and it's real, and it shows you in a life and death situation how much focus your brain can actually put on one thing to the point where it feels like you're slowing down time when time didn't even slow down. That's how great focus is.
That's so
right?
powerful.
And so when you have the ability to remove as many distractions as you possibly can from your life and stay focused on whatever it is you're doing, you have the ability to succeed at a greater level.
So
and
how you felt on Hollywood Tower of Terror?
Oh my God, bro. That's like a fucking dude. The Tower of Terror.
To Disneyland one time. I watched him. I've never seen Trev that scared before.
Bro, I don't fuck around with like heights and shit.
Have you been on the Guardians of the Galaxy yet?
That's what it was.
That's what it was.
awesome.
It was that one's bullshit.
The old Hollywood Tower of Terror.
I see that you're getting your pilots working on your pilot's license.
Yeah.
I started doing that too. I was like at 42 hours, 43 hours right now. The FAA fucked with me a little bit because I have 4 DUIs on my record.
Okay.
I was a little reckless when I was younger, you could say. My record would say, you know.
Yeah,
I don't think I was that reckless. I mean, I just got caught all 4 times. That was it. You know, I swear. No, just kidding.
No, that was really good though.
But like, I don't mind like heights if I'm in control.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? When I strapped up to a fucking whatever that tower of
Elevator?
terror is, or
Elevator?
whatever, a dropping elevator, you know, like I don't feel like I'm in any control. So that's the peace situation that I struggle with. Like, I gotta feel like, you know, it's me and it's not like some random ass thing. So when I'm dropping, like stalling the plane, have you had to stall the plane yet?
Yeah.
That's some bullshit, dude, where you're focusing straight up and all of a sudden go. And then the plane starts dropping and you jam and start getting the gas going. I'm like, he's like, you want to stall again? I'm like, no, not really. Right rudder, you know, so it doesn't tip.
It's a trip.
It is a trip. It's fun as hell though.
It is. I mean,
So cool.
My pilot instructor is such a stud, and he said,
I know he's videoing you. My old guy would like put the phone.
"Oh,
away,
he's
focus
so
on your
cool."
shit.
And we talk like this up there, and he was like, "Okay, we're gonna stall the plane, and I want you to take this as if you would a really tough situation in real estate. What do you do? Do you panic, or do you take a deep breath and just go slow?
Yeah.
Planes are made to fly, not wreck.
Yeah.
It's usually pilot's error. Well, it's always
It
pilot's
is,
error.
pretty much.
And so he's like, okay, plane stalled, take a deep breath. Okay. And I could relate. He allowed me to relate to a situation that I'm used to. So I was like, okay, all right. Even though, like you, I hate heights. I hate, falling like that.
Yeah,
but
your
there was
stomach goes
a
in your throat the
deeper
first time.
principle.
Yeah.
Like it all went away, and I got into my head, and I was like, okay, I'm present in the moment. And
has he pulled the throttle back yet and said engine failure?
Yeah, crazy.
Like randomly.
Yeah, like
those
fire
things,
in the front.
Those things can coast
For long.
so far.
Yeah, and what people don't know. And,
It seems like this heavy
they're
thing.
made to fly, man.
They're made to fly.
Yep.
And he goes, do you think that we could make that airport? I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah,
We were at Sand Hollow and he wanted us to go all this with a Hurricane Airport. I'm like, there's no. He's like, just try it. I'm like, hey, and we got close, but then there was a plane taking off, and he's like, all right, throttle up. We would have made it,
It's cool.
And so he was like demonstrating, because you think if a plane don't have an engine, it's just going to be a hunk of metal and go straight down. But these things will just coast for miles and miles.
It's really
fun.
neat. It's really neat.
Super cool.
It's been
to
a good
learn about.
experience.
Anyways, I guess we could talk about piloting now for a little while if we really wanted to.
I'm really
about that
passionate
show.
about
I know,
that.
it's fun as shit.
It's
dude.
really fun. It's been fun for
Get
me.
your pilot's license and then go get your instructor license and sign off on my shit. Let's go.
Yeah, there you go.
So
I'll just have an easier way to get down here all the time.
Exactly. Let us borrow your plane.
Anytime.
Yeah. So
Anytime.
no, dude, it's been awesome having you on the show. It's been awesome getting to know you and who you really are
You guys
outside
as
of
well.
just the smiling, pretty face and the lots of money, right? There's an individual behind all of that, right? Like we can make assumptions looking at your Instagram. This is a rich, good-looking dude that has a bright future that probably didn't really have to deal with as much, right?
Sure.
Like a lot of people want to like slap that label and say, well, it was easier for him or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So to be able to peel that back and look under the hood and get to know you has been awesome.
Trevor's like, hey, Ryan Flint's coming in for a podcast. I'm like, oh, cool. I didn't know your name, so I went and looked you up on Instagram, and I was like, oh yeah, I've been seeing your face pop up around, dude. And then anyway, it's just cool, man, to get to know you and
then know
he's
all
such a blessing.
I know.
I'm glad you're getting out there more because the world needs more of people like you.
Yeah, thank you.
Out there shooting their message out there.
Shine light on breathing and loving and caring and some of the fugazi shit that people just think is nothing, right? They're still focused on the transaction. You've ascended past that to a whole nother level, right? And I think that more people need to try to shoot for that, so that they can feel fulfilled and be rich rather than just be rich and miserable, right?
That's right.
And so how does somebody connect with you if they want to reach out to you, if they have a question, whether it's about real estate, whether it's about business, about your life, anything in regards to anything?
Honestly, just find me on Instagram, and then if there's a real connection, I'll give my personal information out from there and develop that relationship.
What's your
that
Instagram handle?
At Real Ryan Flint.
Okay, that'll be in the show notes as well. So make sure if you want to connect with him, he's a good guy to connect with. As you could tell, he'll send a little bit of love your way if you send him a message. Make sure you show him a little bit of RBO love and thank him for coming on. Guys, other than that, make sure that you're leaving reviews, you're sharing the show, all the typical normal shit that every podcast says at the end. Do all of those things. And other than that, we'll see you next week. Kick ass. Take care.
Yep.
Gang, gang.